I was too afraid to admit I was pregnant. Then he left me for my own sister. My heart broke as my family turned their backs on me. Years later, we ran into each other by chance. My name is Kala, and my story starts when I was 15. The day my father knocked on my door, not to bring me home, but to tell me he was moving his new wife into my mother's bedroom. Just weeks after that, he chose his new bride over me, let me go, cast me aside like an old inconvenient memory. He let me leave. He never looked back. But life has a wicked sense of humor, because 12 years later, he came crawling back, demanding money, screaming that I had exploited him. He had no idea the fire he was playing with, because by then, I was a woman forged in the very silence he created. It began much earlier when I was 8. My mother got sick with congestive heart failure. Our house changed after that diagnosis. Mom couldn't manage temperature changes, so the windows were mostly closed, and our home always smelled like disinfectants and pharmaceuticals. Medical equipment filled half our living room in Portland. By age 10, I could check her oxygen levels and notify the nurse if something was wrong. I learned to heat soup to the appropriate temperature so she could swallow it without pain. While my friends rode bikes and had sleepovers, I measured medications and recorded symptoms. My dad was a financier. He made decent money, and we lived in a comfortable suburban home. But after Mom got sick, he changed. He'd return from work and retreat to his office, eating dinner alone most nights. He'd leave the room when Mom coughed, his movements around the home showing he was disturbed by her illness, even if he never said so. It was like he was avoiding anything that reminded him she was dying. I turned 13 just 4 weeks before Mom died. She passed away at home one Tuesday night. I was doing schoolwork near her bed when her respiration changed. I ran to get Dad. He came, examined her, and called the hospice nurse. Then he returned to his office while we waited. After 25 agonizing minutes, the nurse verified my suspicions. Mom was gone. The next Saturday was the funeral. Dad, dressed in a dark suit, shook hands with everyone. During the service, I saw him check his phone twice. Mom's mother, my grandma Vivian, sat next to me and grasped my hand. Dad was on my other side, but he never touched me. Visitors arrived at our house after the funeral. Dad discussed a merger with coworkers in the kitchen. I walked upstairs and stayed in my room until everyone departed. The house was quiet for 4 months. Dad had a cleaning service remove all the medical equipment. Mom's belongings were packaged and stored in the garage. I tried to keep my room exactly as it was. Maybe if I did nothing, things would return to normal. Then Dad brought Lauren home. She was 33, worked in marketing, and had blonde hair pulled into a high ponytail. She chatted and laughed loudly. She was very unlike my mother. One dinner, Dad introduced her as his girlfriend. "This is Lauren." Her presence would only grow. Lauren smiled and asked about school. I remained silent. Within 7 weeks, Lauren moved into our house. She brought 3 suitcases and 12 cartons. Dad helped her carry things upstairs to his bedroom. His and my mother's bedroom. I came home from school one day to find Lauren redecorating. She switched out Mom's soothing blue curtains for bright yellow ones. The medical bed frame was replaced with a trendy platform bed. Mom's corner reading chair, which she used when she was strong, was gone. I found Mom's wedding dress in a garage donation box. Her jewelry box framed family photos, her favorite novels, all in there. The box went to my room. Dad noticed me holding it and told me, "Don't mess." He said nothing else. About 6 weeks after Lauren moved in, Dad's folks visited. They sat with Dad and Lauren in the living room. I could hear them arguing upstairs. My grandfather told Dad he was making a mistake. It was too soon and he should worry about me. Dad said they should accept his choices because it was his life in his house. My grandmother visited my room before leaving. She inquired about my health. I shrugged. She said their door was always open for me. After they left, Dad called me downstairs. He and Lauren sat on the couch. He told me to respect Lauren because she was family. "What about Mom?" I remarked. He said Mom was gone and we all needed to move forward. I stopped eating dinner with them. My plate went to my room. Lauren would get offended when I didn't eat her extravagant meals. Dad revoked privileges. First my allowance, then my phone. He then told me I couldn't play soccer since I wasn't a team member at home. I learned Lauren was pregnant with twins at 15. Dad was happy. He hugged her in the kitchen and started baby name talk immediately. Pregnancy harmed Lauren. She screamed at me for leaving my backpack in the hallway or using her bathroom. Dad worked late most nights, so it was just her and me at home. She would watch me and point out my mistakes. I spoke disrespectfully. I looked judgmental. My breathing was too loud during her nap. At dinner, 7 months pregnant, things escalated. Lauren ordered takeout since she was too exhausted to cook. I was moving food on my plate, not eating. Lauren wondered why I couldn't be appreciative for once. I remained silent. Her volume increased. She stated her awful childhood shaped everything about her. She wanted a normal family and I was wrecking everything. I regarded Dad. He watched his food. I anticipated his order to halt her. He remained silent. Packing began upstairs. I packed clothes and Mom stored items in my school backpack and duffel bag. I called my grandparents from my room's landline. When my grandfather answered, I asked to stay with them. He agreed quickly and urged me to pack everything vital. They arrived an hour later. Dad greeted them at the door. It was hard to hear the foyer chatter. My grandfather's voice rose. Grandma then helped me carry my luggage downstairs. Dad stopped in the hallway and inquired where I was heading. I walked past him without answering. That was my last time in that house. My grandparents lived at a smaller lakeside house 45 minutes away. They prepared the guest room and let me stay as long as I wanted. The home was peaceful. My grandmother cooked regularly. Grandfather assisted me with homework. No one yelled at me. Dad made daily house calls for 10 days. My grandparents replied that I didn't want to talk. Calls ceased after that. I graduated high school with my grandparents cheering me on. My grandparents had me invite Dad to my graduation. He arrived alone, sat at the back, and left after the ceremony. He sent a $150 check and card. No note. After community college, I transferred to a state institution for my final 2 years. I studied nursing. My grandparents compensated for scholarship gaps. Never asked Dad for anything. My grandma occasionally mentioned extended family news during those years. Lauren gave birth to Ethan and Noah, twin sons. Every advantage was used to raise them. Always new toys, private preschool, Disney trips. Dad shared images from baseball games and birthday parties on social media. I never called. He also never reached out. Last month, my grandfather sat me in his study. His health is poor at 83. I learned he and Grandma updated their will. Everything went to me and my Aunt Isabella, Dad's sister. Dad got nothing. The twins also got nothing. I was stunned. Why? I asked. He stated, Dad chose to let me go and never tried to get me back. He witnessed his son marry someone other than his daughter and wouldn't reward that. Though little, the estate contained their house, cash, and investments. Important enough. My granddad informed Dad of the change. Things started then. Lauren emailed me first. Family issues were discussed. She called me manipulative and selfish. In 4 paragraphs, she said I poisoned my grandparents against my father, that I was a money-hungry vulture, and that everything wrong in their lives was due to me being a difficult child who refused change. I remained silent. Then they visited my grandparents 3 weeks ago. Dad, Lauren, and the 1-year-old twins. They arrived as I was helping my grandmother with yard maintenance. Lauren exited first, conversing before leaving the car. The twins went to the backyard and started tampering with my grandmother's garden decorations. They knocked over a ceramic bird bath. Lauren didn't look their way. Dad approached the porch where I was standing. He asked how I was. I said it would take time to cover the last 12 years. My grandparents emerged. Grandfather stood between Lauren and the entrance door. She demanded to know why they rejected their son. She said, "Family takes care of family." My grandfather replied. He said he raised his son to be responsible. When my mother was unwell, Dad had to take care of his wife and kid. He failed by withdrawing emotionally and replacing my mother before she was dead. He said Dad could choose when I went. He could have defended me. You might have joined me in counseling. I could have done anything to prove my worth. He left me and began a new family without me. Lauren attempted an interruption. My grandmother told her to stay quiet because this was between the males. Despite her flushed face, Lauren stopped talking. My granddad continued. He assured Dad he wasn't punished. He was paying for his actions. That the money wasn't punishment. It was about rewarding family-oriented folks because I returned and cared for them in old age. Aunt Isabella called weekly and visited monthly. Dad said nothing. After a moment he turned and returned to his car. Lauren took the twins who were throwing rocks at the bird feeder and followed, driving away. After going inside, my grandfather didn't say anything. Dad emailed me 5 days later. That was long. His apology covered everything. Said he was drowning after Mom died and Lauren was his only lifeline. That he realized he had failed me but couldn't mend it after so long. He offered a relationship if I tried. I read it twice. I archived it without replying. I don't know what I want from him. An apology doesn't recover my fatherless years. It doesn't change that he chose comfort over responsibility, started a new family, and forgot about his daughter. My grandparents arrived. Their aid made me who I am. They gave it even though they didn't know me. Living my life. Now I work in a hospital, my own apartment. My grandparents need help 3 times a week, so I visit. I don't do this for my grandfather's will. They and I matter, so I do them. Dad chose. Now he must live with them. Update 1. Since posting, things have definitely changed, and many wanted an update. Aunt Isabella contacted me a week after Dad visited my folks. She requested coffee. We met near her downtown workplace. Dad was calling her often, she said, wanting her to persuade my grandparents to reverse the will. He offered to split her inheritance if she helped him. She declined and said she supported our grandparents. Then she revealed something new. After I moved home with my grandparents at 15, Dad told extended family that I left, that he tried to make things work, but I was too furious over him leaving Mom. He presented himself as a decent parent dealing with a defiant teen. Aunt Isabella first believed him, but years passed and he never contacted me. She asked my grandparents what happened and discovered that Dad let me go and never tried to get me back. That he planned Lauren's permanent move before I left. She apologized for not contacting me during those years. She stated she should have checked in instead of trusting Dad. We chatted for 1 hour 45 minutes. She inquired about my life and work, asking about her kids. Reconnecting with that family member after so long was unsettling. It got worse at my grandparents' house. Lauren called their landline at weird hours. My grandma answered early morning and late night, and Lauren would give speeches about how they were pulling the family apart, how the twins should meet their great-grandparents, how I manipulated 2 seniors. My granddad unlisted their number. Dad mailed physical letters. They were sent to my grandfather and read like legal arguments explaining why he deserved his inheritance and how he had cared for them as children. Even though my grandparents were independent until recently, he cited twin medical costs and college funds. Grandfather tossed them aside unfinished. Then Ethan and Noah visited my office. They slipped past the entrance desk at my hospital, claiming to be family visiting a patient. Our nurse discovered them strolling the corridor near the staff area, asking for me. They were removed by security. Since they're 11, they couldn't have come alone. They were driven and waited outside. Probably Lauren. That night I called Dad. My first call in nearly a decade. If he or Lauren sent the twins to my office again, I would file a restraining order. He pretended to be unaware. I hung up. My granddad got sicker about this time. He was hospitalized for 4 days after falling. Nothing huge, but enough to remind everyone he's old. Dad arrived at the hospital with flowers after hearing from someone. He wasn't on the approved guest list, so the nurses wouldn't tell him my grandfather's room. He tried to speak with my grandmother and Aunt Isabella, who were there. I ran into Dad in the lobby one evening as I left. He asked to talk. No, I said, but he followed me to the parking lot. He said he understood my anger, but isolating him from his father during a health crisis was cruel. When I was 15, witnessing my family fall apart, I inquired where he was. That stumped him. He changed tactics. He said the twins sometimes ask about me. Photos may make them think about their elder sister. I said it wasn't my concern. He chose to keep us apart for years. He became angry and called me selfish and cruel. The family should have forgiven. I inquired if he forgave me at 15 when I was grieving. He left without saying if he forgiven me for complicating his new life. My grandfather returned home after 10 days in the hospital. He had my grandmother agree to tell him if Dad called again. He stopped being diplomatic. Aunt Isabella suggested we all consult a lawyer to ensure the will was solid. Dad appeared desperate enough to dispute it legally. My granddad consented. The lawyer examined everything. The will was strong. Grandfather was mentally sound. His judgments were justified and he had the assets to disperse. In case of Dad or Lauren harassment, the lawyer advised documenting. I started recording emails and calls to my grandparents' old number before they changed it. I received a parcel at my flat 3 weeks after my grandfather returned, from Dad's address. My childhood photo albums were within photos of Mom and me. Pre-sick family vacation photos. He found these while cleaning the attic and thought I may like them. According to the note, nothing else. I browsed through them that night. I'd never seen those photos. As a newborn, Mom and I at the beach when I was 5 and preparing cookies in the kitchen. They also showed Dad holding me as a toddler, teaching me to ride a bike, and smiling in a way I don't remember him smiling until Mom got sick. What he intended me to do is unknown. Get nostalgic. He was different before, so forgive him. I stored albums in my closet. I didn't throw them away but didn't display them. Aunt Isabella phoned again last week. Dad stopped contacting her. She said Lauren had stopped trying to get her to help. She was relieved yet anxious about his next move. I saw calmer grandparents. Stop unannounced visits and late-night calls. Grandmother suggested Dad may have embraced reality. Not convinced. Nobody fights this hard for anything and quits. I visited my grandparents yesterday to help with house renovations. My grandfather approached me to talk. He said he didn't regret his will decision and that even if Dad took them to court, it was worth it to clarify his position. He admitted to failing to intervene more when I was younger. He wouldn't again fail by encouraging bad behavior. I inquired if Dad would sue. He wasn't sure but ready anyway. We finished repairs and ate dinner. Grandmother made pot roast. Nothing regarding Dad or Lauren was discussed. We ate and chatted normally. I knew family should feel like this as I left that night. No stress, no conditions, just people who wanted to spend time together. Whatever happens with Dad, I have this. This is more than he offered me. Update 2. The situation escalated unexpectedly. 3 weeks after my last update, my apartment building manager called. At the front desk, someone claimed to be family and asked about my schedule and if I lived alone. The manager wouldn't say but wanted me to know. I reported it to police. It could be Dad, Lauren, or someone they sent, but I wasn't risking it. Then my grandmother called. She claimed a home health agency employee had visited their home. She said she was evaluating my grandfather's independence since someone had raised concerns. My granny refused her entry. When she called the agency the woman claimed to work for, no one had been sent. Getting into the house was a swindle. My grandfather was furious. He called Dad personally and threatened to apply for a restraining order and inform the family of his behavior if he sent anyone else to bother them. Daddy denied sending anyone. Said it could be a mistake. He didn't convince my granddad. I increased trips to my grandparents' place. Instead of 3 times a week, I went 4 or 5. My grandma enjoyed the company, but my grandfather seemed anxious. His doctor advised stress reduction. Said his blood pressure was high and he needed to relax. How can you maintain calm when your son seems to be trying to prove you're inept to overthrow you? Aunt Isabella visited over the weekend. Family meal at my grandparents' house. She brought her husband and 2 kids. The house was full with caring folks, which was lovely. Aunt Isabella addressed Dad's social media posts concerning elder abuse at supper, talking about adult children who exploit aging parents for money. Several family friends called her to check on my grandparents. It took her several times to explain, inform folks that my grandparents were okay. Yes, they chose their will. No manipulation occurred. She was exhausted and my grandparents were humiliated by social media drama about their family. My grandfather then decided he called a conference with extended family who continued asking questions, not Dad. About 18 people, cousins, his siblings, my grandmother's siblings. He organized everything. How Dad left me when Mom died. He let me leave at 15 and never tried to get me back. How money had made him only want reconciliation. Some relatives were stunned. Others suspected something was wrong but didn't intervene. Everyone understood why the will was worded that way. After the meeting, Dad learned about the meeting. He sent my granddad an email calling him vindictive and accusing him of turning the family against him. My grandfather was undermining his relationship with me. He said, "My granddad sent me the email uncommented." Everything changed the following week. I returned after a hospital shift to discover Lauren in her car outside my apartment. She exited and approached me. I started recording with my phone. "We must discuss," she said, "that everything was out of control and we needed to act like adults." I ordered her out. She declined. She accused me of mistreating my father, that he made mistakes but tried to fix them, that my resentment was destroying the family. When I was 15, I inquired where this concern was. No one followed me as I went. She claimed I was dramatic and that many kids live with grandparents, which is okay. I told her to leave again. She moved closer and said I needed to hear her out, that the twins deserved more and shouldn't suffer from adult troubles. I asked, "What about me? Did I deserve better as a child with adult issues?" She said that differed. That was long ago. An outside neighbor asked if everything was good. Lauren returned to her car and left. I preserved the recording within. The next day, I requested a restraining order against Lauren. The tape, the twins' incident at work, her months-old email, and my apartment manager's testimony about someone asking inquiries were included. Temporary order granted. Lauren had to stay 600 feet from me, my office, and my apartment. Dad called me after learning. He was mad. Said I was overreacting and Lauren was helping. I inquired how visiting my home after I warned her to stay away helped. He said I overreacted. I hung up. He returned 7 calls. I blocked his number. My grandparents supported the restraining order. My granddad thought borders were needed. Aunt Isabella concurred. Dad seemed more desperate after the command. His visits to my grandparents resumed. He watched the house from across the street in his automobile. First, my grandfather called the police. They advised Dad to go. He did, but returned 2 days later. Over 3 weeks, this happened 5 times. Every time my granddad contacted cops. After each warning, Dad left but returned. Finally, my grandfather requested a restraining order. Dad harassed them and stressed him out, harming his health. We also granted that order. Dad violated it 2 days later by writing to their house, rambling about familial persecution. The letter was lengthy. Just a chance to fix things. How his parents prioritized money over him. Police were called. Dad was informed further breach will result in arrest. Everything has been silent for 10 days. No phone calls, visits, or letters. My granddad saw another doctor. Although high, his blood pressure is stable. The doctor warned him to stop stressing or face major problems. I urged my grandfather to modify the will and give Dad anything to leave. No, he said. Dad would learn harassment works by giving in. Aunt Isabella recommended temporarily transferring my grandparents somewhere Dad doesn't know about until things calm down. No, they refused. Said they've lived in that residence for 45 years and won't be relocated. I get their point. Yet I'm worried. Dad probably expects this tension to kill my 83-year-old grandfather. Dad may contest my grandfather's will if he dies without amending it, claiming improper influence or impaired competence in his final months. My grandmother said they've handled worse than a tantrum from their grown son. So don't worry, but I worry. My visits rose again. Started staying some nights to make sure someone was there. I can work from their house because my flat is close. My granddad and I sat on the porch last night. He inquired about my regrets. If only I had kept in touch with Dad to avoid all this unpleasantness. No, I said. I lamented missing 12 years with my father. I could never get back. His fault, not mine. I was young. He was grown. A nod from my grandfather. Said it was correct. Respecting oneself is more important than peace. Especially when peace means accepting mistreatment. We sat silently. Then he said something memorable. He answered, "Blood doesn't make family. Conduct does." That Dad quit being family the day he let me leave without following. I don't know what's next. Not sure if Dad will give up or find new ways to make our life tough, but I'm done letting him decide. Whatever happens, I'll tackle it with help. Final update. Maybe this is my last update until something huge happens. The restraining orders held. Dad hasn't broken them since the letter. I suppose the arrest threat got through to him, but things aren't fixed. Aunt Isabella contacted 10 days after my last update. Dad contacted her again with a new strategy. He asked her to arrange a meeting with me. He wouldn't bring up the will. He just wanted to communicate. She inquired about my intentions. No, I said. I had nothing new to tell him. My response was given. He became angry and accused her of contributing. He hasn't contacted her. I was contacted by an unexpected person, a school counselor for Ethan and Noah. The counselor said that the twins had been fighting, not doing their homework, and disrupting class. Noah said their family was coming apart because their older sister despised them during a session. My counselor asked if I could help them grasp the situation. I simply stated that I hadn't seen my father in over a decade, that we had no contact, and that while I didn't dislike the twins, I wasn't their family. The counselor thanked me and said they will make do. Pity the kids. They're 11 and stuck in their parents' disaster. Dad and Lauren broke it, not me. My granddad recovered. Stopping the harassment lowered his blood pressure. Doctors liked the improvement and lowered one of his meds. We had quiet weeks. I visited regularly, but things calmed. Springtime conversations with my grandmother about gardening began. My granddad was arranging old photos and albums peacefully. The lawyer called. Dad challenged the will. A formal notification of intent to challenge, not a lawsuit. He claimed that my grandparents were incapacitated when they changed the will, and that I had influenced them. The lawyer stated this was normal and unimportant. My grandfather was mentally sound when his will was amended. According to medical records, our evidence showed that the will amendments were made before most of Dad's harassment, disproving the undue influence claim. It means preparing for a judicial battle, gathering medical, financial, and witness testimony about my grandparents' decision-making ability. It was fine with my grandfather, who expected Dad to try it. My grandmother was irritated, not terrified, just exhausted. If Dad brought action, the lawyer predicted it would take 8 months and cost much, possibly eating into his inheritance. We debated settling as a family. Give Dad something to fix this. My grandfather declined. He would fight this with every penny if necessary. That principle trumped money. Aunt Isabella concurred. She offered to pay legal fees. I noted that Dad wanted us to spend our time, energy, and money on this. My grandfather said, possibly, but he didn't reward poor behavior. Challenge still pending. Dad must sue within a specified time frame or it's dismissed. The lawyer believes he will back down once he understands how costly and difficult it will be. Meanwhile, life goes on. I got promoted, given greater responsibility, and paid more. My grandmother celebrated with my favorite dinner. A friend introduced me to someone. Nothing major yet, but it's wonderful to have something outside of family drama. My grandparents' 62nd wedding anniversary was last week. Aunt Isabella's relatives came down. We had a modest party at their house. Just caring family. Someone took our group photo. Everyone smiles. My grandparents in the middle, Isabella's family on one side, myself on the other. I realized this was my family. Not my birthright, but the one that appeared. Dad hasn't contacted me in almost 3 months. That could suggest he's given up or planning something different. I won't wait to find out. I asked my granddad how he would change things in the past. If only he had intervened when I was 15. He responded, yeah, but the past is unfixable. You can only improve forward. His worst mistake was thinking Dad would lead. That he waited too long to act, to give his kid the benefit of the doubt. Before he understood Dad wouldn't change, years had passed. I told him he and Grandma helped me more than anyone else, and it wasn't his fault. Though kind, he regretted not doing it sooner. We sat on the same porch so often. Everything was silent except birds and distant cars as the sun sank. Grandmother came out and offered tea. Yes, we did. She brought 3 mugs and we sat as the sky darkened. I imagined Dad with Lauren and the twins at his house. I wondered if he liked his choices. Maybe switching families gave him what he wanted. Not hating him. Don't think about him enough to dislike him. He was a former acquaintance who made decisions that brought us here. My grandparents are 80. They're temporary. The house, money, and whatever else they leave me will be mine after they die. Dad gets whatever he built with Lauren. Perhaps he will fight the will and delay this for years. He may finally accept reality and move on. I have no control over him. I can manage being here, showing up, and taking care of those who took care of me. I left my grandparents' house after dinner last night. As usual, my grandfather walked me to my car. His pride in me was not based on the will or the conflict with Dad, but on who I had become. I thanked him and said, "I learned from the finest." He grinned and hoped. I drove home after he returned inside. The situation is that just life, no conflict or resolution. Not giving up. That's okay. Some stories don't need neat ends. Sometimes just keeping going is enough. If you've ever faced a situation where a parent chose a new partner or lifestyle over their own child, or if you've been in a battle over inheritance and family expectations, I want to hear from you. What boundaries did you have to set? How did you navigate that pain and find your way forward? Share your experiences in the comments below. Let's talk about it.